Hi everyone. We're going to talk about introductions for rhetorical analysis prompts today. In AP language, we are always dealing with some kind of nonfiction text. So I want you to think about what would the purpose of an introduction when you're writing about a nonfiction text look like. You need to always be sure that you demonstrate your understanding of the prompt. Show the reader what you know. Leave no question that you understood what the prompt was asking you to do and what the passage said. You also want to enter into a conversation with the reader because the reader is always looking for a logical line of reasoning when it comes to your writing. So you want to immediately establish that logical line of reasoning in the introductory paragraph. You're going to provide necessary information as a preface to discussion of your points. This does not mean a laundry list of things you're going to talk about as you might have done in the past with 5-paragraph essays, but the information that you need to provide to demonstrate that you understood what you have read. And of course, you want to make a positive impression on the reader. Some things to think about. Remember that the first sentences do make the first impression of your writing for the reader, for better or for worse. So proper punctuation of titles, names, etc., capitalization, all those things actually matter. Even though we are not scoring on a deduction method in AP language, we're not marking off for every missed comma, every missed period, you still want to just make sure that you're leaving the best impression possible in that introductory paragraph. Try to reflect the complexity of your thinking. Show that you understood at a deeper level than just repeating what you have read in the prompt. Use your own voice. Good writing sounds like you are sitting across from me and talking to me. So be sure it sounds like you and it doesn't sound like you think I want it to sound. Also, be sure you allude to the prompt in order to establish rhetorical context. They're going to give you some information. Be sure you utilize that in your introductions. Remember that your introduction should reflect your understanding, be a direct response to the prompt, and be written to provide the reader with a clear understanding of your thinking. It should be focused on the task and the passage at hand and not wandering or bringing in any extra information. In rhetorical analysis, we're thinking just about the passage we have on the page in front of us. So do not repeat or rephrase. Come up with something fresh and new, and I'm going to show you a pattern for beginning to understand how to do that. Don't generalize. For example, don't say, the author uses rhetorical strategies to achieve his purpose. Be specific. What exactly did he do? Don't generalize. Don't be tentative. Don't be vague. Don't ever start an essay with, I don't really understand this prompt, because then immediately the reader is thinking, okay, this student does not understand the prompt, so we're already off to a bad start. Don't announce your intentions. In this essay, I will. Phrases like that just need to be stricken from your writing vocabulary. Be careful about making broad generalizations about nowadays or from the birth of mankind or since the beginning of time. Those kinds of things will get you into trouble. Be specific. Avoid generalization. Don't use absolutes such as never, all, or always, because as sure as you do, someone will find a point on which they can prove you wrong. Do not define terms for an intelligent audience. Your audience for your AP writing is myself in this classroom, a reader from around the state of Arkansas at the mock reading, or a reader at the worldwide reading in June. And every one of us understand the prompt. We are academic readers, and we will be looking for that kind of writing to come out of you. And it's the same thing you'll be doing in college. Always assume that your audience understands what you're talking about. For example, you don't have to say Webster defines, or the meaning of this word is. Those sort of things, again, can just be stricken from your writing vocabulary. Avoid general nouns. Don't just say strategies. Be specific. What exactly was done? Instead of saying memories, be very specific and describe. My mother remembers that her family was so poor during the 1960s that they added water to their milk to make it last for their children. Don't use rhetorical questions that include the word you. Have you ever read a novel like? Just don't do it. And don't use first person in rhetorical or literary analysis. Now, we'll talk about this later because it is acceptable to use first person on your argument prompts. But when we're doing rhetorical analysis, and then when you're in AP Lit next year, and when you're in formal college writing the next year, just avoid first person in general and avoid the second person you at all times. My suggestion for setting up your introduction is tag plus 2T. The tag plus 2T introduction includes the title, the author's name, the genre of the piece, and then what the writer says about the subject or their big idea or theme. In AP language, for purposes of rhetorical analysis, types of genre we could see include letters, speeches, lectures, essays, excerpts from a larger work, a magazine article, a newspaper article, an excerpt out of a book, any kind of nonfiction writing. Tag plus 2T includes the title properly punctuated. Longer works would have titles underlined unless you're typing, and then they would be in italics. It would have the titles of articles or shorter works in quotation marks. The author's name in the first paragraph always include the first and last name if it is given. For instance, if the author's name is Abigail Adams, you will refer to her the first time as Abigail Adams. After that, you could refer to her as Mrs. Adams or just her last name, Adams. Do not refer to authors by their first name ever, 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 ever. It is just not a good academic practice, and it's just impossible for you to know these people, so you're certainly not on a first name basis. Include this genre. Is it an essay, speech, letter, article, nonfiction work like a memoir? Be specific if you can. And then go to tone and theme. What does the writer say, and how does he or she say it? Be sure that you use active voice. Avoid writing in passive voice. Use strong words, and in the introductory paragraph, avoid to be verbs. And you're going to have to use to be verbs like am, is, are, was, were in your essay at some point. But in the introductory paragraph, particularly in the tag statement, let's use strong verbs, and you can refer to your strong verb handout in the online classroom or in your notebook in order to choose a much better verb than am, is, are, was, or were. We're on the verb note too. Let me point out we're always going to write about literature in the present tense. We're never going to use past tense verbs. Include a descriptive adjective because this helps us establish tone. This is an example of a prompt from 2013, and it would have been followed by a passage, but I've just clipped out the directions for you to look at. And it says the passage below is from Last Child in the Woods, 2008 by Richard Louv. Read the passage carefully. Then in a well-developed essay, analyze the rhetorical strategies Louv uses to develop his argument about the separation between people and nature. Support your analysis with specific references to the text. Now let's look at what one student did in a tag statement introduction for this selection. And this sample taken from an actual student's writing, and I don't remember if it's a student from Centerpoint or one I pulled from an AP sample, but this student said, in his thought-provoking book, Last Child in the Woods, Richard Louv creates appeals to both logos and pathos in a sheer effort to illustrate the separation between people and nature. We have the title of the book, Last Child in the Woods. We have the author, Richard Louv. We have genre in the form of a book. We are setting tone with the adjective thought-provoking, and we've gone to Richard Louv's big idea to illustrate the separation between people and nature. This tag statement paired with one more sentence could be a perfectly adequate introduction. Here's another sample. This one's from 2011. It says, Florence Kelley, 1859 to 1932, was a United States social worker and reformer who fought successfully for child labor laws and improved conditions for working women. She delivered the following speech before the convention of the National American Women's Suffrage Association in Philadelphia on July 22, 1905. Read the speech carefully. Then write an essay in which you analyze the rhetorical strategies Kelley uses to convey her message about child labor to her audience. Support your analysis with specific reference to the text. Here's an example. Throughout Florence Kelley's compelling 1905 speech to the Philadelphia Convention of the National American Women's Suffrage Association, she emphasizes the need to alter the existing working conditions for young children as a necessary change in society. And again, this is from a student-generated writing sample. We have the author, Florence Kelley. We have the genre, a speech. And we do not have a title in this case. Anytime you're missing a piece of the tag plus 2T, you just skip it and move on. So author, Florence Kelley, genre, speech, tone, compelling, and big idea or theme, the need to alter the existing working conditions for young children as a necessary change in society. And again, the student has demonstrated that they understand what the passage is saying, even through just one sentence that would be in their introductory paragraph. Some final reminders: introductions don't have to be lengthy. Often 2 or 3 sentences can be completely effective in an introduction and in a conclusion. Your goal is just to demonstrate that you understand what you've read. You understand what the prompt is asking you to do. You understand what you've read, and you're ready to relate your insights to the reader in an effective and conversational way. And always begin with confidence. A confident writer will always score higher on the AP rubric. So be sure that you work on beginning with that academic confidence as you analyze nonfiction passages. Thank you very much.